Early CD-based consoles from the 90s always interested me. I never owned one back then, but I desperately wanted to. I wasn't sure which one the best one was right for me. The Amiga had the CD32 just released, and my history with that computer made it the obvious choice.
Dad, you'll never believe what I just got, the new Amiga CD32 games console.
But I was a little disappointed that most of the games for it were run-of-the-mill ports of Amiga 1200 titles with a CD soundtrack slapped on for good measure. Then there was the Neo Geo CD. This was a surefire way for SNK to get more of their arcade games in the home, and I desperately wanted one. But this was the age of full-motion video games, and they were starting to become very popular, and 2D sprites were seemingly on the way out. I had heard about a new emerging player, the r.e.a.l company, that was introducing new hardware that had wonderful support for 3D hardware and would support full motion video. I was intrigued. The games I was reading about in magazines like EGM or Electronic Games Monthly made it sound like everything that I wanted in a CD-based console. So what happened? Did I end up buying a r.e.a.l? Well, like most of us from that era, I ended up buying a Sony PlayStation and the rest is history. The r.e.a.l was quickly forgotten, but fast forward to present day, as we know, old consoles never die, they just end up in thrifts, garage sales and second-hand stores to get purchased by someone like me.
The Simpsons is brought to you by r.e.a.l, the most advanced home gaming system in the universe. What are you playing with?
So this is the Panasonic r.e.a.l FZ-10. This is the follow-up to the original Panasonic FZ-1, which while I think looks cooler, has some questionable design choices that in my opinion make the FZ-10 the one to get. The r.e.a.l was originally released in October of 1993 for the price of $699 US. It also had a very relaxed licensing model to entice hardware and software manufacturers, especially compared to Sega and Nintendo at the time. The 7-year hardware license agreement required no royalty payments and only that the r.e.a.l logo appear on any machines. For software licenses, r.e.a.l charged a $3 fee for each CD produced. Now, because the r.e.a.l company had a very open licensing model on both hardware and software, in total there was about 7 different releases of the r.e.a.l system across 4 different manufacturers. We already just talked about the Panasonic FZ-1 and FZ-10 models. Gold Star released the GDO 101 in North America, Europe and South Korea, and in 1995 the Sanyo Tri was released in Japan only. Creative Labs even released an add-on PC ISA card to allow any standard 386 based PC to run r.e.a.l games and software. Pretty nifty. So going back to my model, the FZ-10, let's take a closer look. This is a top-loading CD system and the tray is opened simply by pressing the left portion of the top loader. My r.e.a.l is a little scratched up, so I'm going to grab some Novus 2 Fine scratch remover and see if we can clean it up a little. Not perfect, but it comes up a lot nicer. Unfortunately, there's some deep scratches that can't be buffed out easily, but I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. Anyway, let's move on and take a look around the system. On the front of the unit is a single controller port. On the r.e.a.l, controllers are daisy-chained. It's a unique and interesting idea, but ultimately means player 1 could easily cheat or rage quit and unplug player 2, 3 and 4 if they wanted to. On the left hand side is a power switch to turn the r.e.a.l on and off. On the back of the unit from right to left is a standard figure 8 power connector. This is unique to the Panasonic r.e.a.l in that the FZ-1 model has the power cord wired directly to the console. This next port is the high-speed expansion port, and this port was utilized to provide the r.e.a.l with more storage capabilities. The r.e.a.l has a standard composite video out with full stereo sound. It also has a native S video output which provides a better picture quality overall, and rounding out the connectors is a standard RF out for use with an old television set. And finally, on the right hand side is the AV expansion, and this was used for an add-on FMV module that made the 3DO capable of playing video CDs. So of course, let's open up the machine and tear it down. First, turn the system upside down, and with a Phillips head screwdriver, there are 7 screws that you need to remove. Just go around the case and remove the 6 visible ones. The 7th is in the middle under this sticker. Then turn the system back upright and lift the case. There are no wires attached, so it should just pop right off. Remove the plastic shielding for the power supply. It's not connected to anything, so just lift it. The same goes for this piece of plastic for the LEDs. The next thing you want to do is remove the shielding. There are 4 Phillips head screws holding down the shielding, so remove those. And then remove this piece of tape that connects the shielding to the CD laser mechanism. The 3DO hardware was developed by none other than R.J. Michael and Dave Needle, both chief architects of the Amiga 1000 home computer and later the Atari Lynx console. The CPU is a RISC-based 32-bit ARM processor running at 12.5 MHz. The first custom chip is known as MADAM. This is the hardware accelerator found in the 3DO. The MADAM chip also has a math code processor component that handle matrix operations for fast 3D performance. The second custom chip, known as Clio, is a simple state machine that reads command lists and controls the DMA and timers. A lot of marketing material talked about the powerful cell engine that was found in the 3DO. The cell engine is actually the combination of the MADAM and the Clio chips. This is where the 3DO gets its performance and power from. The 3DO has 2 MB of main RAM and 1 MB of VRAM or graphics RAM. This chip contains the 3DO system or BIOS. It's 1 MB in size and manages all aspects of the 3DO operating system. This chip is the custom DSP that provides 16-bit stereo sound at 44 kHz. And this is the video encoder chip that provides the composite and S-video outputs that we can utilize on our televisions or CRT displays. Sometime in 1994, updated revisions of the FZ-10 and FZ-10 motherboards were released with a custom chip called Anvil. This essentially was the combination of the MADAM, Clio, and digital signal processor all in one chip. In general, it is widely recognized that compatibility of games is slightly lower if you have a revision motherboard with an Anvil chip as opposed to the 3 original custom chips. The FZ-10 gamepad has a single D-pad, 5 face buttons, and 2 shoulder buttons. The games came on a standard 80-minute CD, and there is no copy protection, meaning it's easy to dump and burn copies of 3DO games. 3DO games were packed in these long box cases. Think Sega Saturn or very early Sony PlayStation, but these are even longer. Unfortunately, they're made of cardboard, so care must be taken to preserve these boxes. Inside a long box usually holds the game CD in the lower half, while the upper half contains the instruction manual. Powering up the FZ-10 only takes a few moments, and if you don't have a disc in the drive, you'll be greeted with a brief intro screen logo, followed by an animation of bouncing CDs prompting you to insert a game or music CD into the drive. Pressing X on the controller will take you to the storage manager. All your save games and configuration are stored internally in the 3DO's 32K of SRAM. Now remember how I said that the FZ-10 addressed some features over the FZ-1? Well, this is one of them. On the FZ-1, there is no way to actually get to the storage manager from the BIOS. You need to insert a specific storage manager disk to access it. Okay, so the 3DO is technically impressive, but what about the games? There is only a small collection of 280 odd games ever released for the 3DO, and there are some classics in that set, but to be honest, there's also quite a lot of terrible games too, and filler. Anyhow, let's take a look at some of my favorites.
But hey, I got good news for you. I put you back on the fly roster.
But I requested...
Never mind that. I want you with me on my first mission.
Die! I am ready to engage. You'll be destroyed, ape! I am ready to engage. Sighted enemy craft, Colonel.
So, in conclusion, what do I think of the Panasonic 3DO, and is it worth your hard-earned cash picking one of these things up? So I'm a big fan of the Panasonic 3DO. I definitely think it's an interesting system worth having in your collection. I will say this though, I certainly wouldn't advocate paying a lot of money for one. I would probably pay nothing more than $50 for a system. Anything more than that is quite expensive, but at the end of the day, there are some really cool games worth playing on the Panasonic 3DO that really can't be ignored. You have quality arcade ports of games like Samurai Showdown, Super Street Fighter Turbo, Bust a Move, and then you also have the Amiga enhanced ports like Out of This World and Theme Park, Syndicate, Lemmings, all those games that play really well on the Panasonic 3DO. For me, where the system really shines are the enhanced ports from Electronic Arts like Need for Speed, Road Rash, and FIFA Soccer. Now, there's a lot more games like that are worth definitely checking out. There is a lot to like about the Panasonic 3DO. It certainly got a raw deal when it was released in the mid-90s, and a lot of it was self-inflicted. The $699 price tag wasn't going to fool anybody. And with the PlayStation 1 just around the corner, obviously it came and ate its lunch, and the 3DO was dead only a few years later. So the Panasonic 3DO, is it an underappreciated console? Well, I absolutely think so. Like many others, I never gave it a chance back in the day, but this is one system you may want to consider as part of your collection, and I am proud to have it as part of mine. Alright guys, well that'll about do it for this video. Let me know what you thought about the Panasonic 3DO. I'd be interested in your thoughts. Do you think it's an underrated classic? Do you think it's a piece of junk? Do you think that you may be interested in taking a look at the system? I would suggest, if you are interested, download an emulator. There are at least 2 or 3 emulators out there for the Panasonic 3DO that are worth checking out. So go ahead and play around with an emulator and see how you feel about the games. You may be pleasantly surprised. Well anyway guys, that'll about do it for this video. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.
Ready?